My name is Mandy. I was, used to be Mandy Kingston, and I was born into polygamy, the Kingston group. Me and my 11 siblings and my mother have all left. But my father, Fred Kingston, he's still a part of the group. When I was growing up, I felt like I was protected from a lot of the stuff that was going on. I didn't experience any neglect. I didn't starve. I didn't experience any emotional, physical, sexual.
What's up, everybody? This one's going to be a little bit of a shorter one. The next episode on Escaping Polygamy dives deep into the older folks in the community. Particularly for this one, it's an order member that the daughter has left the order many, many years ago. But when her dad is getting really old and needing people to take care of her, she doesn't feel that the order person, Shane, in this example, is giving him the proper care that she feels like he deserves. So she's trying to just take action to help. And one of the things that they attempt to do is to get him to a hospital or a place to get some checkups and get the medication that he needs. And the order, we all know, the order is a little bit particular in what type of medical help they like their members to get. So they run into some issues on this one. We're going to just watch through, and I'm going to share a little bit of my thoughts on, first of all, how the order handles situations like this, and then how I think this particular situation to me, it seems like there wasn't a whole lot of genuine, I just feel like it could have been resolved in a much better way for sure. So we're just going to go through it and point out some of those things that I think on both ends, they definitely could have done a lot better. Okay, so really quick, the first thing I want to mention is I think the approach that they're taking is a little bit too extreme, because this man has been associated with the order most of his life, and he's extremely old now, very stuck in his ways. And when they interview him and talk to him, it's very clear that he wants the medical help. He wants to live as long as he possibly can and do whatever it takes to stay healthy and to allow that to happen. But he likes the order. He straight up just tells them that he loves the members. He likes being a part of it. He doesn't ever say anything about wanting to leave in particularly. But their first way of handling the situation is to get him to leave. And I understand where they're coming from, because the order members that are housing the old person, Fred, I think is his name, they very much have control over him and how much access he has to going to the hospital or getting medical care. And they're not giving him all the medical care that they want him to have. So it's interesting to see, though, that their first approach is just to get him out of there. Whereas, and maybe they did try this, I don't know all the things that they showed, but I think it could have been a little bit more effective to try and get him the medical care in his current situation, because the order is definitely against it. But with Fred being so much older and having family members that are out of the group, there are chances and sometimes where you can kind of push the limits of what's allowed, and it potentially could have tried to give him the medications or get him the medical help with him still being in the order. I don't know if getting him out was the first step that was necessary to get him the proper help and treatment that he needed, but I do know where they're coming from. They definitely want him to be able to obviously be the adult that he is and have a say over if he gets the medical help or not, rather than these order members kind of stopping that from happening. So that's one thing that I've noticed was a little bit interesting, the approach that they took. But I could see, it's just the daughter definitely is concerned for her dad, and she's trying to get him the proper help that she feels like he needs. And she has had multiple conversations with her dad saying that, and with Fred, the old man, saying that he does feel like he needs help. He does want the proper medication. He needs help and he wants it. And so he's grateful for his daughter trying to help him, but he also is trying to still balance that line of not upsetting the order members. And you notice that when they first show up to the house, they have a previous conversation and he's all on board. He wants her to come over, wants her to take her to the hospital, get her for his daughter to help him out. Then the very next day, when she shows up at the house and the order member shows up there as well, then he's very hesitant and standoffish and I don't know if he necessarily changed his mind, but you can clearly tell that he seems a lot different and he's trying not to upset anybody, right? And it's really sad because in essence, his life is on the line. If he doesn't get the proper help that he needs, that could really be life-threatening to him. And all he's thinking about is not crossing the boundaries of, the members of this religion that he's in. And so it goes to show just how deeply rooted in a lot of the members' minds, not offending or not upsetting the rules or the expectations of being in this group. So that part I think was very interesting to be able to see.
They lock him in his apartment?
Yeah, they say that they keep him in there for his safety because they're afraid that he's going to come out and fall.
What if there's a fire?
Exactly.
Season 2, episode 9 of Escaping Polygamy. So hopefully you guys have seen that one or are watching it to keep everything straight with what this YouTube video is about. Just trying to get it all straight because they're now presenting documents from a court case that Fred was in, or the old man was in, that the old man is stating to the people that the organization that he is in, they may try to kill him, or at least allow him to die, I suppose, if he goes against them. So he very clearly doesn't want to. Man, this is fascinating though, because this shows likely or possible that all that conversation that he had with his daughter saying that he likes the order, that it's a great place, could be motivated by him wanting them to not, kill him basically, which is very strange because I would think that maybe he wasn't alone with his daughter, I suppose, because I would imagine if he was alone with his daughter and if he trusted his daughter at all, then he would be able to tell her and let her know like how he truly feels. That's where I think just the fact of having the camera involved in any of this really does make it hard to fully display what people are thinking and what's going on, because there's basically behind the scenes of everything. Because when someone gets a camera put in their face, it is so much harder to share everything that you want to share, right? I just think that makes it so much more difficult. It's hard to get the raw truth out of all this. That's why I've even been having a hard time rewatching this and growing up and living in it. I'm trying to put all the pieces together on what this must have been like, what this actual situation was, what was going on through their heads, And everyone's different too, so there's no way of knowing for sure, but I really like being able to piece everything together and try and see kind of where they're coming from with everything. The daughter of this old man clearly has statements from him saying that he has been afraid of order members before, to the point that he feared for his life. So she does have reason to be very worried for him, even though the order members are claiming that he's safe, claiming that everything's fine. And when the order members are around, even the old man says, everything's great, I love it in the order. So it is very hard for the people filming, the producers, and for, I'm sure, any outside people watching in on this would be very confused as to why the daughter is trying to change things up when the father seems and appears and even says that he's okay and everything's fine. But she herself has heard private conversations with him, has these documents that make her extremely worried. So I can see both sides as to why there's the confusion and why she has such an urgency and this very strong desire to try and help him.
And they left him there?
and that's why they
we tried taking him
and taking him to the hospital, and Shane wouldn't let him.
He clearly told them though that he's afraid they're going to kill him.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the next interesting part, and can very likely be why they didn't even do any other steps before trying to get him out of the community. When they did finally go to the old man's house, the daughter was there talking to her father, saying that she's there to help him go get out of there and to help him get the proper medication and just the proper help that he needs. Immediately, an order member shows up, the guy kind of watching over this old man. Fred the old man no longer seems interested in wanting to leave, and the order member tells the daughter that you can't take him, so you just have to leave. And so because the order member had the power of attorney, there was nothing that she could really do. They were like threatening to call the cops, and so they ended up having to leave the old man there with the order member.
As horrible as this situation sounds, I'm not one bit surprised. The elderly are of no use to the order except for the money that they could potentially leave behind.
Started talking about the will that the order is having him sign. And it's interesting because we've definitely seen a lot of people argue about older people and their children, and oftentimes the argument is that the children just want the money from their parent, and they come around and they start wanting to help more when they know the parent doesn't have a lot more time to live for, and that's at least one argument. The argument the order would make is that these people are just trying to help out the father because they know he doesn't have a lot of time and they want to get his money. And on the other side, they are clearly seeing the order using this old man's money, right? And so they have the same exact argument that the order just wants to be able to get his tithing and get his money consecrated to them. And even further than that, they have him sign his will over to this order member, which is essentially signing it over to the order. And so they have full power and full control over Fred and his finances and everything that he makes. And so it's kind of interesting. The tough part is that Fred did agree to that. And so the children probably argue that he's old and he's not sure what he's doing, but Fred did agree to it. There is the whole other side of the story that Fred may have done it because he fears for his life. But bottom line, he did sign over everything to Shane, the order member. So he has full control as of right now.
When Fred dies, if any of his children or family members want any of his belongings, they will have to buy it back from the order. Even something as simple as a photograph has to be bought back.
So this is great. The next part of the episode has the secret insider sharing information of what the order will is like and why a lot of the outsiders don't like it. Because in the order is the kingdom of God, and so everything someone has is not their own. It belongs to the Lord or to the kingdom of God. So the order system and their will has everything lined up in a way that when someone passes away, the order gets everything. None of it gets distributed amongst the kids. Nobody divvies it up at all. The order gets everything, and then even when it comes to sentimental things that might not even be worth very much at all, they still require someone to purchase it from the order if they want it. And I didn't even know this part, but the insider's sharing that even as small as a photograph nowadays, they're having to buy it back if that's what they want. And so they're basically going extreme on the side of taking everything away, and everything goes to the church, not to any family members, not to even the parents don't get a say in who gets what. It all has to be signed over to the church. So it's very clear to see, I'm sure the order sees it as consecration. From any outside perspective, it looks very much like they're just being greedy. They're not being they're not being understanding about things that are sentimental. And so they're not giving any consideration to what might be of value to the children in the family members that want to be able to get things that are sentimental to them, that have meaning to them, that they grew up with. And the order doesn't allow that, in essence, unless they will pay them for it. So from an outside perspective, it's very harsh. And I would agree. That seems very extreme. I don't know why they divvied it up that way. Well, I guess I do. From their perspective, it's all God's. Nobody owns anything.
Did they take that lock off the door? That lock that was on the outside of the door?
I took an axe to that.
Oh, you took an axe to it. You took it off.
So Fred finds out that there's a lock on the outside of his door. And his daughter is furious and wants them to take it down and take it off. And they keeps the order members that put the lock on the outside of the door to lock Fred inside of his room, say it's for his own safety. And then finally Fred himself takes an axe to it and breaks it off. Because he knows that he doesn't want a lock on there in case of an emergency. He can't even leave. And so it's really cool to see that, because clearly Fred's his mind isn't gone. He's not so old that he doesn't understand anything. he clearly knows what's going on, and he's still there enough, take some action and want to do things to better his life and to keep himself safe. But he is clearly fighting this battle of who he's going to trust to take care of him, what type of care it would be the proper care for him. And so it's interesting to see how all this is going to play out. But it's very clear that even Fred himself is on his daughter's side with saying that they are going too extreme on locking him inside of his room.
He served his time. He's made the order millions and millions of dollars. He worked at the mine. He was the boss man at the mine. And he should be treated and honored as the numbered man that he is. And he's just being locked away. It's freaking horrible.
This is just kind of a side note, but he's a numbered man. You would think that they would receive a little better treatment as a numbered man that dedicated their lives to this kingdom of God, right? But they decide to go and take him and lock him up inside this room and just essentially waiting for him to die. I would think that would discourage a lot of members to ever want to grow old in that kind of an environment. If I'm going to be in an environment that is treating older people like that, I would feel this need to, have a backup plan or create some other way for when I get old and I can't take care of myself. I wouldn't want to trust them. And so I feel like this is only going to make things worse for the group. I would imagine they probably didn't think this all through, though.
What do you want, Dad?
He doesn't know.
Do you trust me, Dad? I want you to tell me if you trust me, not what Shane thinks. I want to know what you think. I don't know why you're avoiding the question.
Well, because it's a long answer.
Mm-hmm. Just know Shane can never keep me away from you, no matter how hard he tries. Love you.
He's a very old man. He's afraid of the order. This is the part that I find hard to kind of wrap my head around, because maybe I just view things very different, but I don't know. Maybe there's just no way around it. But to me, I would imagine dealing with your father that's getting really old and having a hard time even surviving, and you know for a fact that he's afraid of order members. I feel like I wouldn't be so bold as to, in front of those order members, that very serious conversation of, do you want me to take care of you? Do you want to leave the order? Do you, she's asking him straight up right in front of the order members what it is that he wants, rather than waiting till they're in a safe, comfortable spot. Like she literally got some time, not very much, but she did get some time alone with him. They let her take him to the park and things. This conversation she's having right now in front of the order members is just going to put up red flags. It's going to make everyone concerned and worried, and then it's going to put all this pressure on Fred, who already doesn't know what to do. He's basically fighting to survive. And then all this stress and this pressure of who do you want to have take care of you. He's already given permission to this order member to, have all of his finances and his stuff to help take care of him, and entrusted everything to this order member in hopes that he will take care of him. And the daughter is kind of pointing out things that he's not getting the proper care that he needs. And I think he's starting to realize that, but it's too much in the moment, I feel like it's got to be, I don't know. I just feel like I would have tried really hard to deal with this a little differently. But I guess, time, they are very pressed for time. And I'm sure it's super emotional. I can only imagine if, my own grandfather, I think of it as my grandfather because it was really heartbreaking when my grandpa died. What I relate it to when I see her dealing with her father getting so old and she wants to help him and she just doesn't, the order members literally are not letting her. That's one thing that's really tough too, though, because it's extra weird that the caretaker that's taking care of Fred, the old man, not even his direct son, and so Fred's actual biological daughter goes there and tries to help and wants to help, and they straight up tell her no because they're a little bit worried that she's gonna try and tell him he should leave the order. It's for one, Fred's an old man. If he wants to leave the order, he should be able to. But also, he's been there so long. So for them to be like, oh, your bad influence, your voodoo is going to affect this person or whatever, then it's like they clearly don't have trust themselves that the old man even wants to be there. And then if it's his daughter, why would she have any ill intentions? Literally all the stuff she's been doing so far is bringing him food, trying to get him proper medication, literally trying to schedule his doctor appointments. Like, from what I can tell, she has only done things to try and help, and she's his biological daughter. So I feel like everything kind of shows that she's just trying to help. Nothing so far has done any harm from the daughter helping her father. And so it's like, it just seems so unreasonable for them to be like, no, you can't help him anymore because we're worried you're going to get him to leave the order. It's like, okay, that's crazy.
I grew up in this cult, and I left when I was 18. I'm not afraid of them. If I was afraid of them, I wouldn't be doing what I could for my dad.
I think this brings up a lot of questions. I wish so bad I could interview the daughter, because my first question is, where was she? You know, wonder what stopped her from being around when her father, you know, got old enough to need to give his power of attorney over to this random order member rather than her. Because like right now she's visiting him a lot, she's helping him, but I wonder if there was some sort of a gap or what caused that. Because even Fred loves his daughter, and he confirms to her that he appreciates her, he's glad that she's looking out for him, and he wants her to continue doing that. But the order member doesn't. So the order member is kind of like drawing this line, like, no, this can't happen. And Fred and the daughter just keep saying, well, the daughter keeps saying, well, it's going to happen. I'm going to come. And Fred just lets it happen. But he won't directly say to the order member, oh, you have to let her keep coming. And he's still, you know, it's like he's afraid. He's afraid to share certain things around the order members.
But do you believe in marrying young girls?
If you read my dad's history, he figured it should go to 18, but he's not the prophet. All of me and my family always went at least 18. I have no idea what their direction is.
So this is one thing that makes it very hard to discuss what are the factual principles that order members live by versus individual families. Because right here, Fred is talking about how the age of getting married, that the generalized doctrine doesn't have an age specific. Different polygamous groups marry as young as like 14 years old, you know? They go very young. And Fred Kingston clearly shares that in his family, they didn't agree with having no age. That his family waited till at least age 18 before any of them got married. And that was like what they personally took on as like their family doctrine, I guess you could say, which is different from the actual community's teachings, what they actually share. Even though this is a very big doctrinal belief, the family still views it differently and has their own exact number that they associate it with. And so every family oftentimes does this. They tweak a few things to make it more bearable for them and make them view the religion, view their principles in a better light. Things are this way, or things are the way that they like it, or the way that they should be, because in their own interpretation of it, they do kind of alter it slightly to what they are okay with, even though the teachings are different. That's where it can be very frustrating when having a conversation with a member and you're trying to like approach it from a very factual viewpoint of bringing up what would be considered the facts, when the principles are oftentimes left up to interpretation. So it's super hard to narrow it down to a specific thing. This is one very clear example of that.
You didn't think it was right?
If it's wrong, then Jesus Christ is wrong, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, it's very interesting to see him kind of dance around it too, because he doesn't want to come out and say groups, the order's teachings and principles are wrong. He never says that. He says that he himself lives by this principle, even though the order's principle is slightly different. he lives by his own. So it's interesting to see that, but he doesn't want to directly say, oh, the order's wrong.
Most people, if your family leaves, you should cut them off.
There's some people in it that believes that way.
You never believed that. You've always been in touch with your daughter and have always loved her.
Yes, definitely.
Also, with the principle of cutting off family members once they leave, that's one that he himself, he openly does say that he doesn't believe that one, and so he doesn't live by it. But he still thinks that the order is a good place and that they are like God's kingdom, but they're not perfect. They get some things wrong, and so that's kind of like his reasoning for that. Like they just got that little thing wrong, but everything else they do right. So at least he is openly sharing that there are some things that he tweaks in his own interpretation of what the order teaches, he doesn't live by. And a lot of order members do this.
My intentions are for his health. I want him healthy. You know, it has nothing to do with his beliefs. If he wants to believe a certain way, that's his still, that's not mine. The order is where he's been his whole entire life. I'm not trying to change that. All I'm trying to do is get his health back.
I love that the daughter says this, because the daughter, and so many people are like this when they are trying to be involved or deal with a situation with an order member. It's oftentimes they don't want to change their beliefs. They are okay with them believing in Paul Kingston, believing in whatever religion they want. They just want to be able to help them, right? And in often cases, just being able to spend time with them, just to visit their family, just to still have a relationship with them. That's oftentimes all that they want. Not any intention of trying to change their mind or make them leave the cult or do anything like that. They just want to be able to help, bring food sometimes, or just to have that relationship. And it's tough though, because the order keeps saying, oh, you can't spend time with them. You can't come and be involved at all because you may cause them or you may persuade them to want to leave the order. When the roles are reversed, they 100% not only have them go to church, but indoctrinate them and teach them that that is the kingdom of God. That's where they want to be. They don't want to go anywhere else. And they constantly are teaching that and openly trying to convert them to that belief. When these non-members, these people that are just trying to have a relationship, aren't trying to do that at all, and yet they're saying, oh, you can't because it may do exactly the opposite of what we are doing, and they are somehow allowed to indoctrinate and present all of their evidence of truth, but no one else is allowed to present anything at all. Even when they're saying they're not trying to convince them of anything, they still don't allow it because of the chance it still might cause them to. That right there is what I think is so unfair, but it's also I think it's a very destructive concept that they have, where they're like, we can present evidence of truth because we're God's people, but nobody else can. When even if they were right about being God's people, presenting your truth and letting someone else present their truth, if yours was right, why would you be afraid of other truth being presented when you're so confident, you're so positive that yours is right? Everyone's going to choose yours no matter what. So it's like, why can't there be other options? Why? It's literally like that example of dragging someone to heaven. It's like you're going to force someone to go to heaven rather than make the choice. If it really was heaven, why would you have to force them to be there? It's like, that doesn't make sense, you guys. I'm sorry. Get your facts straight.
Did you want to go get your blood tested? That we talked about yesterday? Uh-huh. Well, did you want to go with us to go get that done?
That concludes that episode. I think they'll have a follow-up later on, but they attempted to the doctor because he agreed they wanted to go to the doctor. But when they showed up to Fred's house to take him to his doctor's appointment, then Shane shows up and tells them that they can't take him, and so they are unable to. Can't do anything about it. It's really sad. I do wonder, if there's anyone that I think would be worth asking questions to, I think it'd be Shane. Because a part of me wonders if maybe he's just doing everything that, leaders in the order are telling him to do. But I do also wonder if there's a reason. Like, why won't he let his daughter help him? It may go back to that whole, he thinks they're going to convince him to leave, but He's been in the order his whole life. He's so old at this point. It's not very likely anything's going to change. So it's like, it's almost seems very odd that he is so strict about not letting him get to this doctor's appointment. It's interesting. I mean, I don't want to put any accusations out there, but it's not very hard to just want him not to receive any help. They want either, I mean, it's clearly not a money thing, because the daughter's the one scheduling it, the daughter's the one setting it all up and paying for it. So they're not just trying to save money. So there's some other motive. And I don't want to say that I can understand why people might see this and be like, oh, they just want Fred to die sooner. And not giving him the proper medical attention and help that he needs is probably going to cause that to happen. And so, as sad as it is, and I hope that's not the case, but I can see why people might think that that's their motive behind it. I wish we could ask them deeper questions and if they could even be open and honest with us. But it does suck that that's just the reality of it, that even their own daughter is trying to just give this help and be there for her father, and the order's not allowing it. That sums up that one. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.